on to blaze this beat.
Welcome to the Collective Chat. My name is Kendall Smiley. We are so excited to have Surpaul Cottrell in the studio today, but I know you as Beast, so it's kind of hard to call you Surpaul because for all these years I didn't know your real name, but we got a lot to talk about today.
True.
So we met each other in the fashion industry. I met you through a model named Bambi. And you had a group of women called Guap Divas. And you had a DVD, magazine, DVD. You were doing it up on the Boston scene, like everybody knew you on the Boston scene. So, and that's going back, I can't remember, like 2005. Yeah, because I was just kind of touching down with doing a lot of fashion shows in the Boston area about that time. And it had to have been about, either it was Club Venue or Club Aria. Aria was downstairs, I remember. And then the Roxy, because that had the stage.
Yeah.
I remember it had the stage. So how did you get into the fashion industry? Let's start with that, because that's how you and I met.
Well, I gotta say, since high school, I had a designer named Tyrone. I was 15, and he used to take me to fashion shows, and you know, he always had the ladies. And then next thing you know, I would see him make his own clothes. Then you know, I started wanting him to make me some clothes. Back then, all I wore was army stuff. They called me camouflage. So I used to go to Rhode Island to the fabric store with him to get different fabrics. Then he'll come back and make things for me throughout high school. My date, her dress.
Wow.
From junior and senior year. So I always was passionate about fashion. Then you know, I wanted to start a modeling company back then, and you know, that kind of went with the magazine. So I utilized the girls to promote the magazine.
Yes, they were. Listen, the girls were very well known, and you had, of course, beautiful girls. I mean, you had Bambi she's absolutely beautiful, and Cape Verdean, of course. So
Most of y'all was Cape Verdean.
So that is kind of where we touched down. Unbeknownst to all of us in the fashion industry, you had also, but were in music then too. You were a music producer back then also, so that wasn't too far-fetched. I maybe didn't know too much about that, but I know you had some artists that you were working with. But really, we're here because you wrote 15 books. You dropped 7 on one day. Not only are you an author, motivational speaker, you are also a music producer, you are also a fitness instructor. Listen, this multi-talentedness is awesome. Yes, photography, fashion, there's quite a few things that we need to talk about, but mainly it's because during that time when I met you during the fashion industry, you had a seemingly double life, a huge double life, which kind of took you down a rocky road. Like I said, unknown to any of the women that you were working with or the people that we knew together. We had no idea that you were heavy in the drug scene in the Boston, Cambridge, New York area. Not you having been on drugs, no, meaning you were drug trafficking. So that must have been, to keep that so under wraps where nobody had a clue was pretty fascinating, that you were able to kind of compartmentalize, you know, the fact that you had this life going on, which is pretty chaotic considering all that's maybe involved, which I do not know all the details, but the fact that you were making runs back and forth to New York, coming into Boston, Cambridge, doing fashion shows, hosting events, putting it on, keeping track of everybody, and was cool as a cucumber. like no one messed with your girls, and I don't know if that was nobody like tried to. So that wasn't an issue, but.
Well, I thought it was my duty to protect y'all. That's all. Make sure y'all was good.
We were good. We were good. I wasn't, I was on the outside looking in, but the fact that you were going back and forth, doing all that, and keeping everything together, and this is going back early 2000, there wasn't any social media like there is now. There wasn't easy access to like FaceTime people like there is now. So trying to keep things under wrap might have been a little bit easier than it is now, but the fact that you had been doing all that and you had a child in the mix too in that, so you had your mother, your child's mother to also, I'm not sure if you were still together at that time, but you had to be a father, be an entrepreneur, be an extreme businessman that you are, which hence the name Beast, because you go in and you always did things really smoothly. So tell me a little bit about the fact that when things started to come to a head between the two worlds, not before you got caught or just when things were starting to put a little bit of a strain and pressure, what was happening behind the scenes?
Well, I would say 2003, I got pulled over by state police. The same state police that was harassing everybody in my city. And basically...
And this is in Boston, Cambridge?
This is in Cambridge. And, I did 2 years before all this. That 2 years, I did 2 years for weed in 98. And those 2 years took my license away for 5 years just for weed. So, I moved to New York 2 weeks after 9/11. And
the city was crazy.
It was crazy.
Because I had left New York in 2000, but I still had a lot of friends in New York in 2001 when it all happened.
Well, I went to school to be a certified recording engineer, but, I had a car, so I'm driving, back and forth from New York, from Boston to New York.
Without a license?
No license.
No license.
But I felt I had no choice. And at the same time, I'm going to school full time, and I got to pay a few $100 a month for school. I got to pay for rent. Living in Brooklyn, it was expensive. So I'm hustling. So I ended up getting pulled over with no license, handling business, trying to get my website developed with my website developer. So when we got pulled over, I said, damn, I got no license. So when he came to me, he said, get out the car, boy. I'm like, for what? What did I do wrong? Just get out the car, boy. Boy. So I got out the car. He searched me. Didn't find nothing. I just took off. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. Started chasing me a little bit. I just kept running. My boy stayed in the car. The same cop would call my mother, leave messages, sit outside my house waiting for me.
Wow.
So
he had it in for you.
Yes, and apparently they found drugs. So they found, I guess, 62 grams and something else. No, just 62 grams. And I got away. So I went on the run.
That's right, you went on the run for a few years.
My web designer got out, beat the case probably 2 months later. that one case turned into 5 more cases, basically.
So they just put one thing on top of another?
No. I just kept catching cases while being on the run. Having that mentality, I'm not going back to jail. I'm not, no matter what. So I'm traveling, state to state, I'm running around, and I just got low in Atlanta. Then came back to Boston one day, allegedly, got caught with 11 guns. Then sat for a day, bail was $20,000, got out, 10% or whatever it was. Back at it again. On the run, first 2 months, really wasn't doing nothing, laying low.
Now, who was helping you lay low?
I can't really say that on camera, but no, shout outs to him.
People
Shout outs to
just,
her.
you know, friends and family and stuff like that.
You know, someone still
All
close to me and still, you know, keeping it real.
Was there that thought in your mind that says, maybe I need to switch things up?
Of course, but you know, now it's getting money together for a lawyer. You know, just making sure everything's straight. Still dealing with my artists, trying to make sure they're good. Still dealing with these models. Still trying to, you know, actually at that time the models didn't come in. That's right. That was a year later. So I'm just real. My mind's all over the place, but I'm not putting myself first. I always happen to put other people first. That's what my problem was. But
So what was it that was that caught you, got you all caught up? That was the final draw, and now you're sitting in the cell and you're like, I'm not getting out of here.
Because I put my artists' lives in danger. Took them on a high-speed chase. I pulled over, crashed the car. The car crashed on its own. The steering wheel wasn't working. I'm going 80. The detective got the same car I got. He's right behind me. Just gave out, hit the guardrail, spun out, hit the guardrail again. The car's going like 20. See one of my artists holding themselves like this. Another one holding his head. I'm like, you guys good? They all said they're good. I said, I'll see y'all. Just jumped out the car while I was going like 15 miles per hour.
Wow.
And the car couldn't stop. I know what was wrong with the car. And someone played, right before that, someone played Try to Save, you know, work for the police or whatever. You know, just stop me. And I just, smashed into him. I mean, the car's still going. It was weird. That's when I had hopped out. But long story short, like they became my co-defendants. They beat the case within like a year, a month or two. Then,
But you didn't.
Huh?
You didn't beat any cases.
I didn't beat any cases. Check this out. I told you that one case turned into about 6 cases. I beat about 3 of them, and that was one of the cases I beat. But the one I didn't beat, I caught. It was another drug case. 2 months later, I pleaded out to another 5 to 7 for another drug case.
So now you're in prison. You got the sentence. What did that feel like? Because now it's a combination of you, if you think about supplying to the community, and you write a little bit about that in your book, in State of Addiction. And the fact that you had an integral part of the drug scene in the Cambridge, New York, Boston area. Like the fact that you were trafficking and supplying drugs to people, families, knowingly that, was there a moment in time when you're sitting down and saying, wow, like I impacted someone's life, and that's where those stories came about, where you wrote a letter to one of the young girls growing up because you had supplied drugs to her parents, which was pretty remarkable, the fact that you sat down and wrote this letter, whether it was intended for her to read or just part of the rehabilitation that you had gone through when you were in prison.
Shit, you just put me in the zone just now. Damn. I tell you like this. When I first went to prison, I'm thinking about getting out. I shouldn't be here. You know, so it didn't hit me, all the other extra stuff didn't hit me till later. But it took me about a month to start getting into writing again.
Really?
That's it. No.
So you had been writing for the 12 years that you were in prison?
Yes. I mean, I started writing in my first incarceration in 2000. When I read my first book. I never read a book before in my life. Into my second year of incarceration.
Wow.
Once I read this book called Horror Son by Donald Goines, it was just, I said, you know what? It took me 2 days. I can write my own book. That's how it started. But back to when I really started realizing, you know, I got to do something different, was when I started making a difference or impacting different individuals' lives that I was, you know, people I was locked up with, people I was training, people I was in different classrooms with.
And then they had a program that you could kind of be a mentor towards them to help kind of just a little bit of a shift in their mentality to say when they get out that there's so much more that they can do instead of going back into the drug scene.
Of course. You know, it's just, you know, people will listen once you show and prove. And you know, anyone could talk, but if they're not seeing no action, it's like they don't believe anything you say in there. You know, everybody's real stubborn. Everyone's got a one-track mind. They're just thinking about getting out, selling drugs, or doing whatever they do.
But that's all they know. That's a lot of what they know. And to know that there could be something else different, it opens them up to having a whole different life and a whole different trajectory in life. This one was pretty powerful, I think, because of the fact that, you know, this was the real impact that you had on the people, especially minorities in the community, and us being minorities. And then we think about how now you're trying to change all of that because of the fact that some of these people might not have had such a difficult life because they were involved in such heavy drugs, but you now have an understanding of the impact of being positive. And so by you being able to like stay focused, a lot of motivational speakers that you listen to, which comes into like this book, Lessons, where you break down basically how to be your own entrepreneur. I think a lot of people to start with the idea but have no idea like where to go or what, and this is a good 1, 2, 3 step, this is how you do it, this is what you should be doing, and how you talk a little bit about the different people getting caught up, some people that are getting caught up in the drug scene, prostitution, you know, the different types of people and what they can do to kind of switch it up and why they don't have to go down that path. But if that's all you've known and that's all you've watched growing up and all of the things around you, how do you stay tunnel vision when you were in prison and you were feeling low? How did you pick yourself up? You know, and a lot of it seems like it's coming through in these messages in these books, which is a recurrent theme of helping people to help them from where they were to help them be something else completely different that they might not even had a remote inkling that they could do, which then goes into surviving the dating game when you give secret tips and these are really practical. So I mean, we could go on and on about all the books, but all of it too had to do with your mental health and the fact that you were locked down for 12 years and you came out of it with this mentality that you wanted to change, that you were changing in the process, and you lost a decade and change in incarcerated behind bars. And I'm sure you had met with psychologists, and I'm sure you met with doctors, and I'm sure you met with people that maybe sat down with you and interviewed you about your experience and the fact that you had to have there had to have been some kind of angst about being in a room with so many men, especially when you talk about you were sleeping and having to not be able to, how can you relax? Like, you're always in a state of tension because of the fact that you have to sleep pretty much with one eye open.
You know, they talk about that situation, seeing somebody get beat up while they were sleeping. You know, waking up to that, you know, it was kind of traumatic, you know. So it's like I could never find myself comfortable in a big dorm of 50, 60 people. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why, you know, I like being by myself in a single cell or with a cellie. But, you know, they try to diagnose me with anxiety and PTSD. They say once an individual does 3 years or more in prison, you know, usually he has some form of anxiety or PTSD. But I don't know. I mean, I feel good, but I can say there's been certain times I felt institutionalized, you know, just, you know, coming home, just doing certain things I do while I was in prison and catch myself like I'm wilding though. Not in the cell. Mm-hmm. I might be talking to someone saying, yeah, I just got to my cell now instead of my house. You know, just so used to that behavior. But my mental health is pretty great though. And I learn from others and I just listen. Because a lot of my friends that came home from doing a long time kind of lost it. And I just try to, you know, make sure they don't lose themselves all the way. You know, help them find their passion again, that's all.
You're doing a great job. A couple other books here that you talk about. I Love You Doesn't Mean Beep. And Jaws of Death. Those are also books that are on my list to read.
Two great novels.
And Beaver Fever, which is also available on Spotify. You can listen to it, which we can't really discuss that here. That's 18 plus. But I'm impressed with the fact that you stayed focused during all that time incarcerated. The fact that you came out and you hit the ground running. You had all of these books already in the works before you even came out of prison, which is pretty amazing because people can't get it together and they're not in prison. And it shows a good testament of your will, your determination, your motivation, and just hyper-focused. And that's through, you know, we talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the different books that kind of motivate, Napoleon Hill, the classics that give you a blueprint on how to go from A to Z. And these are all the steps you need to take, and it's all broken down. And that's where this book comes in.
Yes.
You break everything down. It's very simple, but again, you have to have the initiation to want to change and to want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Surpaul Cottrell, thank you for coming. I'm so happy. Where could people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you?
We're on my website, Cottrell Vision, COTTVISION.com. Instagram, I'm a beast with it. IMMAH, Beast, WITIT, on all platforms.
Right on. So thank you. My name is Kendall Smiley for watching The Collective Chat.
Haunted blaze this beat.